And what will the audience expect from the show? What can they expect?
The audience can expect Aigborn probably at his best, really. Obviously, he's one of our most famous writers, prolific writers. And this is a play that he wrote in the 70s. It's one of his first plays. And anybody who's been on a committee will recognise every single character. And there are other stories as well. So, you know, it's funny, it's a little bit dark, it's real because you recognise the characters, great observations, just a really entertaining play.
And what will the audience be thinking when they're driving home from the play? Like, what's the message of the play? Is there a message?
I don't know if there's a message really, except that, well, if there is a message, it's that if you put a team of people together to organise something as simple as a pageant or a rally, it goes wrong because people just can't get on. There's no wonder world wars happen because people can't get on when you get all these different characters. So I think if people go home after the play, they'll say, yeah, I recognised him or I recognised her. I've been on a committee, I've had that experience. So it's that recognition factor, I think.
Yeah. And is there any characters that you can see yourself in, any qualities that you can see yourself in?
Well, I think you can always see a little bit of you in the character you're playing. I'm playing quite a boring, pedantic councillor who's on every single committee you can think of. And he likes to dot the I's and cross the T's, likes everything to be perfect. And I can be a little bit like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But you sort of try and bring something of yourself to the character as well. So, I can identify a little bit with Donald.
What made you say yes to doing the play?
Well, I haven't done a play this year. I did some television earlier this year. I did Hollyoaks, 5 episodes of Hollyoaks, and I haven't been on stage this year. And I haven't done an Aigborn for a while. I did this play about 12 years ago and remembered it fondly, remembered it being very funny. I really enjoyed it. But it was a different part I was being offered this time. So I thought, well, it'll be nice to do this play again, but play a different role. From a different perspective. Yeah. So it just appealed to me. And also the director, Robin Herford, is one of Aigborn's favourite directors. He actually was the first man to play my role, because Robin used to be a member of the Alan Aigborn Theatre up in Scarborough. He was one of the original actors there. And he's a great director. He directed me in Woman in Black all those years ago. So I thought, well, we're in really safe hands with Robin.
Yeah, and how is it doing stage compared to screen? Is there any difference?
It's completely different, really.
Yeah.
It is. On stage, you get the full story. You start at 7:30 with Act 1, Scene 1, and you finish at 10 o'clock at the end of the play. In television or in film, you might have to do a scene which is much later in your story. So you don't necessarily start at the beginning and go through. So I really admire soap actors, film actors, because they've just got to turn it on and put themselves in that mindset of being upset or being happy or whatever, without having the story going right through. Whereas obviously here you start at the beginning and you go straight through. Also, you've got to be real in both genres really, but on stage obviously it's a little bit bigger. You've got to make sure that you're heard. You've got to wait for the audience, you've got to react with the audience, see how they are. Whereas on film and in television it's much smaller, it's quieter, it's more intimate, and the camera never lies, so you can't get away with anything. If we laugh on stage or we get our lines wrong or we're having a little giggle, you can kind of get away with it, but on camera, you can see it.
Yeah,
so they're very different, really.
Yeah, and you've done various things. What's the biggest thing that you've done in your career to you? The proudest achievement?
My proudest achievement?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so difficult. I've been in business. I've been in show business 50 years this year. I started when I was 9 years old, back in the 60s. So
what's the biggest change you've seen in the 50 years?
The biggest change, I think, is the competition now is greater than ever. There are more people. You go to auditions, and there are more people up for your role. Definitely.
Yeah.
More people want to perform, and also there are different avenues. There used to be just a couple of channels on television. Now there's everything. There's Netflix, all these different channels, and of course there's all the theatres, all the touring and stuff. So I think the depth is greater, and I think people are probably better now. I think they're better when they're younger. They come out of stage school and drama school, and they're really good. When I was in Wicked, in the West End a couple of years ago. I couldn't believe how brilliant the young people in the show were. They're all just so talented, and they can do everything. They're what we say triple threats. You know, they can sing, they can dance, they can act, they can do everything.
Yeah.
So the depth is just enormous now, really.
Is it different being in the West End compared to touring, or is it pretty much the same?
It's very different being in the West End. The advantage is you're in the West End, which is so exciting, and if you're in a big successful show, that's just tremendous. The theatres full every night, and you get people from all over the world coming to see you, and it's exciting. When you're on tour, the difference is that every Monday or Tuesday night is like your first night. I mean, we opened in Newcastle last night, and it was packed, and we all said backstage, this is like a first night, because they were reacting in a completely different way from when we were in Southport last week. So every week is a new, and you get new critics in, you know, and it really matters that they give you a good review that week. So you're kind of going to discover a new audience and a new place, and of course you're travelling around as well. Whereas when you're in the West End, you can generally get home every night.
Yeah, and how do you spend your time when you're touring around?
Well, I like to look around the town. I love finding cafes and restaurants. I'm a real foodie, and I love finding good coffee places. That's what I do, and I tell everybody this really good coffee place around the corner. I love doing that. I love my food. I try and find a gym or somewhere to run. I try and keep myself fit. And it's amazing how quickly the day goes. And in some cities there is often some really good things to see, so I try and get out and about. But the day just goes. Before you know where you are, it's kind of 5 o'clock. And you have a little sleep, or I do, because I'm quite old now. And then you're preparing for the show. So the day just absolutely flies by. Then you've got 2 shows midweek, and you've got 2 shows on Saturday, and then Saturday night you're packing up, and then you're off to the next venue. So the time really does fly by.
And you've been in Newcastle quite a few times. What do you like about the city?
It's just a terrific city. The vibe here is wonderful. Everybody seems to be really proud of this city. There's a real buzz. Great places to eat and drink. Great people with fantastic sense of humour. Lovely buildings and a truly beautiful theatre. I mean, this is one of the country's top theatres. I was telling some of our cast who haven't played here before, I said, you're in for a treat. It's a Frank Matcham theatre, who's a famous theatre designer. And we stood on stage last night before the show and looked out, and we all went, wow, it's absolutely gorgeous. And there's a real love for the theatre. I think the friends of the theatre here really look after the place. And you can just feel, as soon as you walk through the stage door, there's a lovely warm welcome. Yeah. And the dressing rooms are fabulous. Look at this, it's really nice. It's just a very thriving theatre, and that's always great for the cast, because it's not the case in some of the places you go to.
And lastly, do you have any more projects coming up?
Well, we're on hold really with this. We're doing 5 weeks from this week, and we finish early December, and then we're on hold to maybe do a few more weeks in January. So until that is definite, which we'll know in a couple of weeks' time, can't really accept anything else. So at the moment, I'm just sort of waiting to see what happens with this. But I've got Christmas off, definitely got 6 weeks off over Christmas, which I'm really looking forward to.
Perfect. Thanks for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.